He flew across the country, buried weapons years in advance, then went home and acted like an ordinary father. And no one made the connection. 3 people vanished, different states, different lives, no visible link, no shared history. Samantha Koenig was 18 years old. She lived in Anchorage, Alaska with her father. She worked evening shifts at a small coffee kiosk called Common Grounds. She liked music that was a little dark, movies that were a little intense. She texted her boyfriend during slow hours. She was saving money for her driver's license, planning her future. Normal, predictable, safe. On February 1st, 2012, she closed the kiosk around 8 p.m. It was freezing outside. A man approached just before closing. He ordered a drink. Then he pulled a gun. He didn't choose her. She was simply there. He forced her to turn off the lights, forced her into his truck. No public struggle, no witnesses stepping forward. Within minutes, she was gone. Later, investigators would learn she had been taken to a shed near her abductor's home. She was restrained. She was killed shortly after the abduction. For a time, her body was concealed. Weeks later, it was transported and left in a remote area of Alaska, hidden beneath snow. A disappearance in plain sight. 1 year earlier, in Essex, Vermont, Bill and Lorraine Currier were living a quiet life. Married, no children, evenings together, a routine that felt stable. On the night of June 8, 2011, someone entered their home after midnight. The couple was restrained and taken away in their own vehicle. No loud disturbance reported. No chaotic crime scene left behind. They were driven to an abandoned farmhouse that had been identified in advance. Inside that isolated structure, they were separated and killed. According to later statements, their bodies were left inside the building. The property was later demolished. Their remains were never recovered. 2 states, thousands of miles apart. No shared social circle. No common workplace. No digital overlap. Random. Or so it seemed. At the same time, far from the headlines, a man was organizing his days around construction projects and parenting. His name was Israel Keyes. He was born in 1978 in Utah and raised in a strict religious household influenced by Mormon fundamentalist beliefs. His childhood was isolated. Remote living, limited formal schooling, heavy discipline, clear authority structures. Emotions were controlled. Obedience was expected. As he grew older, he rejected the religion of his upbringing. He became more withdrawn, analytical, detached. People described him as intelligent, quiet, observant. He joined the U.S. Army in his 20s. There he learned structure, patience, planning. He later settled in Alaska and started a construction business. He lived with his young daughter. He paid his bills, spoke politely to neighbors, showed up to work. Nothing outwardly alarming. But beneath that ordinary life, he had been building something else. For years, he buried sealed containers across the United States, what he called kill kits. Inside were weapons, restraints, tools. He buried them months, sometimes years, before ever using them. He traveled by plane to one state, drove across borders to another, paid in cash, avoided patterns. He did not stalk specific individuals. He selected opportunity. An isolated house, a business closing late, a couple without visible security. He approached with a firearm, quickly restrained his victims, and transported them to secondary locations he had scouted in advance. He typically killed soon after abduction, often by gunshot or strangulation, according to his own admissions. The emphasis was speed, control, silence. Then came concealment, remote forests, abandoned structures, snow-covered terrain, properties unlikely to be searched quickly. In one case, a building that would later be demolished entirely. The act was only part of it. The aftermath mattered just as much. He followed the news, watched investigators struggle, took satisfaction in the confusion. Because confusion was the design. Everything began to unravel after Samantha's disappearance. Her debit card was used after she vanished. Surveillance footage captured a masked man withdrawing cash. Digital records began forming a pattern. Phone data, car rentals, flight records, different states, same movements. In March 2012, he was arrested in Texas during a traffic stop. At first, he denied everything. Then, he began speaking. He confessed to killing Samantha Koenig. He confessed to killing Bill and Lorraine Currier. He admitted to burying weapon caches years in advance. He claimed there were more victims, possibly 11, but refused to give full details. 3 murders were officially confirmed. Investigators believe the number could be higher. He insisted his victims were random, that randomness protected him from profiling, that crossing state lines protected him from patterns. Control was everything. He controlled the timing, the locations, the silence, and eventually, he controlled the ending. In December 2012, while awaiting further legal proceedings in Alaska, Israel Keyes died by suicide in his jail cell. He was 34 years old. 3 confirmed victims, an unknown total beyond that. Buried caches that may never all be found.